If you work in edtech and you're looking for inspiration on how to onboard people, I want to show you one of the most in-depth, crazy personalized onboarding flows I have ever seen from a company called reading.com. When you land on reading.com and you click on get started now to start doing the onboarding, you will be greeted with up to 30 different steps in the onboarding process, depending on what you click. And they personalize almost every single option with names, descriptions, reviews. That's why in this FigJam file, I have taken the time to go and document all these different steps so that you guys can have it forever. You can find the link to this board in the LinkedIn post above or the YouTube description below, depending on where you're watching this. And study it. There are lessons to be learned from something that is this finely crafted, and we're going to go through and see what some of those things are right now. What is reading.com? So for those of you who don't know, it is a literacy-based consumer app. So basically parents are buying this for their kids so they can better learn how to read and improve their level of reading. This screenshot flow was taken as of February 4th, 2025. So just keep that in mind in case you go out and test it for yourself, that it may not be exactly the same. So as soon as you click on get started, you'll be greeted with this screen. And the first thing to note is that it's in a phone aspect ratio, even though I'm on desktop. This to me is genius simply because for something like this, it's just a simple survey that you're clicking on in different steps. There is no need to make it responsive. You can speed up your implementation so much more this way by just trapping it in a phone screen and keeping every design the same. And then if you want to change some wording or do any customization, it's very simple. All the platforms will look the same. Right away, we can see that they are coming at it with social qualification, research-backed, educational experts, makes you the teacher. So much of it is about proof that this thing is a good idea for you to start using as a parent to help your kids get better at reading. But what is it that really struck me with this? It is starting at anywhere where there are options. So for example, the first question, what's the main reason you want to teach your child to read? Every single one of these options has a completely customized reaction. For example, here, our curriculum has become a homeschooling favorite, and that's because that's the homeschooling option. For the option below, preparing child for school, thousands of parents have already prepared their children for school. Our co-learning experience combines meaningful screen time, blah, blah, blah. Every single one is personalized, not only with the text, but with a custom review that comes from a customer that is speaking to that option. So that's actually one of the first things I said about context. Small startups or companies that don't have millions of reviews already won't be able to do something like this in a legit way, but it's really cool that reading.com has that scale and is able to leverage their reviews for that level of personalization. One of the most notable is my child is a struggling reader, because that takes you to a screen that asks you about why they're struggling. And you can see that for certain options like ADHD, dyslexia, and autism, there are 3 separate flows, each with a review that speaks to that very specific challenge that the child could be facing. But then there's something that I really appreciate down here, which is all of these options, which are vague in the sense that the parents are saying the child has another learning difference, or they don't have any specific ones, or they'd rather not say. They're allowing parents to actually not be specific and still be greeted with something personalized here, where it says that, you know, parents take their children from being struggling to confident readers without any specificity. So it's very cool that you get to express a challenge without having to give away anything that feels private or personal. Next, everything converges into this one screen. Regardless of how you go in this tree, you end up on this screen. We have a kid-safe certification, so more proof and validation. And then when you click on continue, it's the age. Now this one really is interesting because I don't know how or why this would be effective in conversion. If you click on under 3, they tell you that it's a bit early, but it's okay to get started. If you click on 3 years old, it still says it's early, but you can get started, but the text in here is different than the one up here. So, you know, they're kind of nudging the parents in slightly different ways based on the age that the parent selects. What I think they're doing here is they're trying to set expectations because they don't want the parents to feel cheated by the program. And so by saying upfront that they're not sure that this is a good time, but it still might work, they're hedging their bets. In addition to that, as you enter the ages like 4 or 4.5, it starts to tell you that this is a good age to get started. And then interestingly, for 5 and 6 years old, they have a specific customization. Not sure why it's important to say 20,000 over 5 and 20,000 over 6. Maybe it's just that they have data for that. Maybe these are the two most common, and so they're putting their maximum rocket fuel behind it to push the parents all the way through. Whatever it is, it's a really interesting thing to note. But the variety is kind of staggering, and I'm genuinely curious to understand what amount of impact this kind of thing has on converting parents into becoming customers. Is it a 1%, 0.1% difference? I don't know. But it's something worth noting that the gamut of customization is quite wide, and the specificity of the ages is quite narrow, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5. This is normal for kids because their development is obviously quite granular, but still very impressive that they've managed to create some personalization after each of these. From this point on, it's kind of standard. Gender, they ask us to select an avatar for the child, a name. When you do enter a name, in this case, our fake kid's name is Chuck, they'll start to use the image I selected for the avatar here and my child's name, Chuck. Then they ask me for my name, which I pretended was Sully. And from this point on, they take some more information from me, give me a generic, good for you screen. And again, they react by pointing out that my child's name is Chuck here, and then more of these options. These times the screens are quite similar, but the nudges are different. So for example, if I said that I'm a first-time teacher as a parent, they're saying, no worries, we love first-timers. If I say that I'm too busy, it'll tell me life gets busy. If I say that I find it expensive, they remind me that there's a free trial. Whatever it is, they are finding different ways to get me to believe that they have something right for me. And sometimes, like in this case, right choice for you and Chuck, they mention the child's name. Why is the child's name only mentioned on the pricing one? I'm guessing because that's the biggest and most important, but who knows, right? I don't have the data, it's just noteworthy, and I'm happy that this is all documented so that I can come back to this later if ever I'm building a an onboarding flow and I want to see what's going on. Some more personalization. Is Chuck learning to read at school? If I say yes, they'll ask me what that they are teaching at Chuck's school. They even have an option for I don't know, which goes to the same place as phonics. So they use I don't know as a way to nudge you into their system, which is a phonemic awareness or phonics-based education for literacy. Then if you choose whole language or balanced literacy, which they don't fully agree with, they have a little bit of humor, some disappointment, and they nudge you into learning about a more science-backed method, which is the phonics, and consequently the system that they use in reading.com. And so from here, you're able to click on continue and move forward, and you're landed on this screen. This is just more social validation, a review, effective learning, trusted by teachers. Let's click on continue. Now this one is very interesting. Which of the following applies to Chuck? This is a checkbox system. No matter what combo of checkboxes you select, this processing screen happens. It'll analyze goals, analyze a profile, put these out of a score, and then give you a habit-forming metric. So 19 times more likely to learn from an app when using it with a parent. This is similar to what we see with Duolingo. When you say that you have a 21-day streak goal, they tell you that you're 10 times more likely to complete that. But what's really interesting is how they react to the number of things that you select. So if you select all 4, you are given the ultimate woohoo. Based on our research, reading.com is a perfect fit for Chuck. Surprise, Chuck is most suited for the app if they are already quite adept at a lot of this stuff. For what it's worth, I am not knocking reading.com with that comment. It's just to say that it's an interesting trick of sales to basically profile someone who is more likely to succeed, but actually add more fuel to that fire by saying this is a perfect fit for this school or this learning program. In the second one, if you select a few of them, let's say 2 of them, you are given Chuck's profile is good to go. So not as much of a big thumbs up. Even the little check mark is gone from in front of the avatar, as we can see here. And then the most interesting is if you select only 1, they take you to Chuck is good to go, but based on your answers, reading.com's lesson might not be the right fit. You can help build his pre-reading skills with our other available activities. So this really helps parents not feel cheated in case they wanted to pay for it anyway, but still go through with the system. They're not blocking the parents. Maybe it could have been cool to give them an out and be like, okay, then no thank you. But in any case, they're still easing some of that stress going forward. On the next screen, we all converge onto this. No matter which one of these options you landed on, then they want to learn something from you where you heard about it. Take your email. From here, one last social validation before, surprise, they ask you to redeem your free week by giving a credit card and paying for the system once the trial is over. And so, yeah, 28 to 30 screens in the longest version of this. Again, I'm not endorsing the specific flow. It's just impressive how much attention it can take from the parent. But because everything is personalized and parents are in a mindset where they are very concerned about their children's well-being, the parents are happy to see all this social validation, probably be told that this is kid certified, that it's science-backed, all this language. But again, what's most impressive is the level of personalization every step of the way. And for us, what we can learn not working at reading.com is to understand what can we do to improve the feeling of our onboarding flow, even if we don't want to make it this long, even if we don't have the amount of data that they do to add all kinds of social proof across the platform. There's a lot to be learned from something like this. So if you found this interesting for your company, for your team, you can click on the link of the Fig Jamboard. It's in the LinkedIn post or the YouTube description, depending on where you're watching this. And let me know what you think of the flow at reading.com. Is this interesting to you? Impressive? Have you tried something like this and found that it doesn't work or that it does? Let's share all this stuff together so we can improve learning outcomes for children and for parents everywhere.